She seemed to be a model on the brink of superstardom.
She loved the photography.
And man, when it clicks, you get some great stuff.
She seemed to be the perfect best friend.
She would do absolutely anything for you, anything to please you.
But the truth was a secret so bizarre, it shocked everyone.
The room started to spin. I had to sit down.
And a scheme so brilliant, it left investigators struggling to catch her.
She's always just barely out of reach.
Colorado Springs, 1988. In this tranquil town, most people take things at face value.
People of Colorado Springs have historically been very trusting people, sometimes too trusting. There's still the attitude of the Old West out here where a handshake is all that's needed to seal a deal.
Colorado Springs has natural beauty and booming business. What it's missing is glamour. But in the spring of 1988, one blonde with a big secret is about to breathe new life into this sleepy town.
A modeling agency contacted me to guard a young and upcoming model by the name of Shannon Ireland, the younger sister of Kathy Ireland.
Shannon Ireland is a 5'9" bombshell with blue eyes and shapely legs that go on forever. She says she's from an affluent family and is even related to Donald Trump.
She told me she was tired of her father always picking her bodyguards for her, and this time her father, for once, is allowing her to hire her own bodyguard.
Sulia takes the assignment as personal bodyguard to Shannon Ireland. Shannon assures him that her modeling agency in New York will deliver him a contract.
I was excited. I was going to get paid. Let me tell you the pay. $75 an hour, 10 hours a day, 365 days a year. That would make anybody drool. It's a lot of money.
Shannon seems to be on the brink of stardom, but she needs a better, flashier portfolio to help catapult her into the modeling elite. She does some photo shoots to boost her profile. Her new bodyguard soon learns that Shannon is a photographer's dream.
She moved very smoothly from one pose to the next, and the photographer was going, yeah, normally you have to tell somebody each and every little pose. And he goes, you know, this is great. I've never had a person who's so easy to photograph. There were times Shannon looked beautiful, and then there were times where you thought, that is an odd-looking model.
That summer, the local semi-professional football team is gearing up for its season and holding cheerleader tryouts. For Shannon, a chance to join the squad seems the perfect opportunity to prove she's more than just a pretty face.
She came in, she was meticulously groomed, did a great cheerleading audition, and when we got down to it, we felt that she would be a great asset to the team.
Shannon Ireland was a good cheerleader. She was a strong girl, big bones. She was a very good base for the pyramid, very agile.
On the field, she could not have done a better job. She represented the team. She was an outstanding role model, worked hard, and just looked great on the field.
Shannon is named head cheerleader and revered by the other girls on the squad. Even though she is just 17, she has a confidence beyond her years.
She was everybody's big sister. She was really a very sweet person. Very kind, hardworking. She would do absolutely anything for you, anything to please you.
Shannon dazzles photographers and football fans alike. But the stories she recounts of her past begin to raise suspicions among her new friends.
I wasn't really sure that I was willing to buy into the Kathy Ireland story, but I think people that are insecure kind of build up a life around them to make them look better. And you could tell that she was a little insecure.
After a few months on the job, Shannon's bodyguard has yet to see a contract. To Sulia, the unexplained delay seems strange.
Things take time, I understand that. Background checks take time. But then, you know, I got to the point, look, where's my contract?
Shannon reassures Sulia that his contract will arrive any day. She flatters him with expensive gifts and convinces him to remain by her side.
She gave me a bunch of stuff to give to my wife, you know, fur coat, jewelry, watch, all kinds of stuff, which I thought, well, that's really nice, but it's still no contract.
By September 1989, after guarding Shannon for over a year, Sulia still doesn't have a contract. When questioned about the paperwork, Shannon is evasive. Sulia grows suspicious. how much does he really know about the woman he works for? With the help of Betsy McClenahan, Jay gets information from Shannon's cheerleading application.
Betsy read to me, what was on her form: name, address, education, said Harrison High School.
Shannon had told everyone she just arrived in town. So why does her cheerleading application list a local school? To find out, Sulia takes photographs of Shannon to the administrators at Harrison High.
I asked the counselor who was there, "You ever seen this person?" And she says, "No, but that person does look familiar. I don't know who it is, but the face is definitely familiar."
The school has no record of a Shannon Ireland among its alumni, but school officials notice something oddly familiar.
We've never had a Shannon Ireland, never. But they all seem to see something.
Sulia passes the photos from person to person. Finally, one teacher recognizes the face and blurts out a name.
"It's Charles. Yes, it's, what's his last name? But he was the first male cheerleader we had at the school, first guy."
The truth is so shocking, it seems almost unbelievable. The glamorous 17-year-old blonde model and cheerleader, who calls herself Shannon Ireland, is really a 25-year-old con man and an imposter. Colorado Springs, 1989. For more than a year, teenage model and cheerleader Shannon Ireland has wowed everyone in town. But now, she has just been unmasked as a 25-year-old man. His name? Charles Doherty. Bodyguard Jay Sulia calls the police.
The police did have to get involved because we didn't know what we were really dealing with.
Detectives quickly determine that Doherty, though deceptive, has committed no crime.
Basically, anybody can dress any way they want. To a great extent, you can present yourself as anything you want. If you want to put a skirt and a blouse on and say that you're a female supermodel, that's fine.
Charles is kicked off the cheerleading team and quickly fades from the limelight.
It was sad. It was sad for me because I truly felt that this was a person that did not mean to do anything mean or disrespectful, but was just really trying to live this altar life.
Growing up in Colorado Springs, Charles hardly stood out in this western town. But at age 18, he dressed as a woman for Halloween. And it was then that his feminine persona was born. He decided to wear women's clothing for good. Just a year after he's kicked off the cheerleading squad, Charles devises another plan to live out his fantasy. He sachets into a local high school and enrolls as Shane Weatherly, a junior transfer student from Greece. The charade proves disastrous. Classmates notice a 5 o'clock shadow beneath Shane's makeup. And just 9 days after her enrollment, school transfer papers are fake. This time, investigators quickly arrest Doherty for criminal fraud.
The school felt really embarrassed. We figure somebody goes in and they present themselves as a female. They got onto the cheerleading squad and dated some guys while he was at the high school. Obviously, the guys he dated were really upset.
Doherty is sentenced to 2 years probation and mandatory psychiatric counseling. The story grabs international tabloid headlines. Again, Doherty retreats from the spotlight.
And we never thought we'd see him again. Figured he'd take his licks and learn from his lessons, but we were wrong on that.
Incredibly, the brazen imposter resurfaces 4 years later, in 1994, again in Colorado Springs, again claiming to be a model and the sister of Kathy Ireland. But now instead of Shannon, he is Storm, a bolder, more beautiful version of her former self.
Most con artists out there just to make lots of money. Charles, on the other hand, is one of those ones that this is a lifestyle he wants to live. He wants to pretend he's a supermodel.
And a supermodel would be nothing without her entourage. So Charles surrounds himself with a group of eager friends he dubs the Dream Team. He weaves a convincing tale of imminent wealth and superstardom.
By being drawn into it, they became part of the scam because they were helping Charles perpetuate his illusion of being a supermodel.
That fall, Storm persuades a local artist to allow the Dream Team to shoot a photo spread at her ranch. She, too, would unwittingly get swept up in the tidal wave of Storm.
The shoot was sort of disorganized. They weren't familiar with any of the farm equipment, and so I just set up the shots for them. Storm kept saying, "You keep doing this, you're great at this," and she kept admiring every little thing I was doing, and she seemed quite impressed.
Storm invites Mary to become part of the dream team, just as he hatches an ambitious new scheme, a series of provocative calendars that will be photographed in exotic locations around the world, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and points beyond. He persuades the entourage to take a percentage of the profits instead of salaries.
We're at Storm's beck and call. We would come in at 7 o'clock at night if she called. The photographers would spend all their film and in hopes that they would get compensated for that when the calendar was produced.
But no calendars are ever produced. It's all just part of the imposter's elaborate plan, which works perfectly. Jet-setting to exotic beaches, Storm is finally the supermodel he's imagined, with an entire crew catering to his every whim. But if Storm's supermodel alter ego is a fraud, who is paying the tab for his elaborate scam? Unaware that Charles Doherty has resurfaced, Colorado Springs investigators receive an urgent phone call from a hotel manager in Puerto Rico.
He had been contacted by a so-called supermodel living here in Colorado Springs, wanting to come down and utilize the hotel for a photo shoot for a calendar.
Storm had persuaded him to not only pony up for free hotel rooms for the calendar shoot, but to also pay for the film. The unsuspecting manager called in the order to a Colorado Springs photo shop, paying with his own credit card.
When they came to pick it up, the company had written the card number and the expiration date on the face of the receipt that was handed to the suspect.
In one easy stroke, Storm had acquired the means to support his supermodel lifestyle, a stranger's credit card number.
Once they got the credit card number, they were able to go to town with it, literally. They utilized it to rent a limousine here in town, utilized it at one of the local restaurants, and for other personal items.
But Doherty is always smart enough to remain one step removed. With nothing to connect the imposter directly to the fraud, it is virtually impossible for investigators to arrest him.
All of the sales and purchases were done over the telephone. It's kind of hard. There's just no way to track down who actually did it. He was always just barely out of reach.
Amundsen must wait for Storm to make a mistake, while the imposter confidently carries on with his scam. Storm dates dozens of men, often stealing their credit card information. Few of his victims report the crime.
Put yourself again in the position of a young man who's gone out on a date with this person, thinking they're a supermodel or a woman, and all of a sudden you find out it's a male. Yeah, they ripped you off, but are you going to want to come forward and admit that you took them out on a date? If that person doesn't want to be a victim, we can't force them to be a victim.
In the spring of 1995, Storm becomes even more emboldened. He recruits a new photographer named Ernie Ferguson. Ferguson is highly regarded in Colorado Springs, but is eager to make a name for himself on the national scene.
There's this raspy voice on the telephone. Hello, I am Storm Ireland, and I got your name from, I forget who she got my name from, and I'm interested in hiring another photographer for a shooting that I want to do in Puerto Rico for a calendar. Well, my interest pretty well peaked at that point.
Storm quickly entangles Ernie in the calendar scheme, convincing Ernie to take pictures for free with the promise of a percentage of the profits.
I thought, well, maybe this isn't the most beautiful woman in the world, but my God, look at this person move. There really was a connection. You know, when you get someone moving like that, both people play off of each other. And it becomes a real team kind of a thing. Storm loved the photography. You know, she loved the relationship that we had built in such a short time. And man, when it clicks, you get some great stuff.
But when Storm hires a videographer to cover one of the photo shoots, the cameraman recognizes the imposter from old news reports.
He said, Storm is a man, a black man. I said, what? What do you mean Storm is a man?
The guy uses, I hate to say this, sounds kind of stupid, really. The guy uses his beauty, if that makes any sense to you, to do this. I mean, you know, if you look at a couple of these shots, there's a shot right here. That's a pretty person. You know, that's not some ugly, dumb-looking guy. That's a pretty face.
The cameraman turns the videotape over to police, but it proves no crime. Mary and Ernie decide not to press charges, embarrassed by having been conned. Investigators continue to wait for Storm to falter, while the imposter continues living large and above the law. Shannon Ireland, Storm Arison, Shane Weatherly. These ambitious blondes are all one person, 31-year-old Charles Doherty, who's been masquerading as a woman for almost 7 years. Doherty's been living out his fantasy by stealing credit card numbers to fund a glamorous lifestyle.
We can estimate that he's probably stolen close to $500,000 of money and merchandise. We knew, though, that he was going to continue this and that more and more people would get ripped off. We didn't have any idea what extent it would end up at if we didn't stop him, but we knew we did need to stop him.
For 5 years, Detective John Amundsen has been on Doherty's trail, but with no hard evidence that will put the imposter behind bars. Finally, in January of 2000, Doherty makes a critical misstep. It's the mistake Amundsen has been waiting for.
He had opened the account at the credit union here in town, and had started cashing checks from an old credit union account that had been closed the previous year into this account in the amounts of like $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 at a time.
Storm has been kiting checks, opening accounts with bogus checks from another bank. It's a crime that leaves a clear paper trail.
That was our big break in being able to do anything with Mr. Doherty. We had him identified, and that's where we were able to actually go after him for the fraud by check and the theft at that time.
Investigators now have the evidence they need, and after years of investigation, Detective Amundsen finally arrests Charles Doherty.
Dealing with him face to face, he was not a very attractive woman, and I found it very hard to believe that anybody could have been scammed by him into believing that he was any kind of a supermodel. A model maybe, but not a supermodel.
In April 2000, Doherty, draped in the guise of Storm, is finally in front of a judge to be arraigned. At the hearing, he posts the $100,000 bail, then makes a startling request. Can he fly to Tahiti for a shoot? To the surprise of no one, the judge denies the request. To the surprise of everyone, Storm ignores the ruling and goes anyway.
Throughout the time we dealt with Storm, I think we had underestimated his ability to pull off the scams, his intellect, and his tenacity in order to keep out of jail.
Just weeks after the judge ordered him not to leave the state, Storm is posing on the beaches of Bora Bora. Back in Colorado, the sister of one of Storm's crew members reads an article about Doherty's incredible con game. Realizing her brother is being scammed, she calls police.
There's another nail in the coffin, if you will, to help try to put him away for a little bit.
Days later, when Storm returns to Colorado Springs, police arrest him for violating bail and fraud. The charges against the imposter are beginning to pile up. Using his parents' house as collateral, Storm posts bail on June 22, 2000, with veteran bail bondsman Dennis Blackwell.
Being the mom and dad co-signed, put property up for the bond, I felt comfortable that she wouldn't skip bond.
On February 12, 2001, Storm is scheduled for trial on multiple fraud and theft charges. But Charles Doherty, a.k.a. Storm Arison, is nowhere to be found. And this time, there is no exotic photo shoot. Storm is on the run from the law. March 2001. For years, Charles Doherty has carried out a masterful scheme. Posing as a female supermodel, he's bankrolled a glamorous life with stolen funds. Now he's a fugitive on the run. With $125,000 in bond money at stake, bail bondsman Dennis Blackwell is determined to track down the notorious imposter.
I was very motivated in trying to locate Storm right away.
Blackwell quickly learns that Storm has left town with a boyfriend, Frank Colress. He investigates Frank's connections and gets a solid lead.
I knew if I found Frank, Storm's boyfriend, I found Storm. Once Frank's mother leaked they were in Florida, I knew for a fact that they were together.
Blackwell immediately heads for Florida, and with the local police backing him up, he moves in on Storm's suspected hideout.
Her boyfriend answers the door. Eventually, he lets us search the apartment.
After stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars, conning hundreds of people, and living out a fantasy life for over a decade, Charles Doherty's final act of deception is painfully simple. Officers find Storm hiding under a pile of clothes in the bedroom closet. This successful and seductive imposter had reached the end of his run.
I probably loved Storm. I probably did, because, you know, she made me feel good. I made her feel good. It was a completely symbiotic thing for all of us. It was really cool. And to find out that, you know, that you're lied to by someone that you trusted, that you believed, you know, oh, I don't care who you are, it's going to bother you.
You choose to believe people for who they are. That's the wonderful thing about being a human being, is you want to believe the best of people.
Con artists always play on people's vulnerabilities. They have a way of being able to determine what they are, it seems, and they play on that.
That's what Charles counts on, is really, I think, the good nature of human beings, and that's why he's able to manipulate them so well, because he's a good manipulator, number one. And people are primarily honest and good.
Charles Doherty has legally changed his name to Storm Shannon Arison. His defense claims he suffers from multiple personality disorder, but prosecutors believe Storm knows exactly what he did. In September 2003, Storm was set free on his own recognizance. He's been ordered to receive psychiatric treatment.
Sparked a deadly blaze, a lit cigarette,
overflowing ashtrays, cigarettes on tabletops,
or a cold-blooded killer.
Fire leaves Shelltail Shine.
On Forensic Files, starting now on Court TV.